So whenever you're ready.
All right, it's 7 o'clock and we do have a quorum of all board members present. So we'll go ahead and start with an invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear God, thank you for letting us all gather here tonight and getting here safely. We know it's been a challenging week for citizens across Amelia and the state. We thank you for your guidance, safety. We pray for the linemen and other responders who are out dealing with situations that from this ice and taking care of citizens. Thank you for providing your guidance over the next few days as well. Pray for safety in travel for all those here tonight getting back home. Please be with us and guide us in wisdom in making decisions in the best interest of Amelia and its citizens tonight. Amen. Amen. And we will do a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, does anyone have any changes to tonight's agenda? Additions, deletions, etc.
I might add, we do need a closed session, very short one, to talk about real estate matters if possible. And during my report, we'll have David Martin. I don't think we need to amend the agenda, but David Martin will be on the air to talk about health matters, coronavirus related.
All right. And we do have a standing item for for closed sessions. That should work nicely. And we do have the gentleman from Nikola Power joining as well during your section. I'd say if any of our guests arrive early, including David just popped in, we'll try to push them toward the earlier part of the agenda, if that's okay.
It's fine, your call.
Try to save them a little bit of time. Reordering the agenda doesn't require a vote by our laws, though, our law rules for the committee. All right, so first on the agenda tonight, we have approval of minutes. So we've got quite a few minutes here to approve since we've had our budget workshops, several continued sessions. Any comments, questions on the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve as a block.
If
we can.
Yes. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, respond by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, all minutes approved. Next, we have the January financial report, treasurer's report, revenue, expenses, and accounts payable. Any questions, comments, or concerns on those four reports?
No, I already asked Carla.
All right, the motion.
Go ahead.
That's all. Thank you, sir. Motion to approve as a block. Any comments on the motion? All those in favor, respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. And moving right along, we are to the public comment portion. I believe we do have one caller. All right, caller, we are open for public comment portion.
Okay, it's probably me. I'm Forrest Cohn with Nikola Power.
No, sorry, Forrest. Hang tight, Forrest. Hang tight, Forrest.
Call in user 2. You're unmuted on our end.
Sorry, that might be Rebecca Worley. I couldn't get my audio to work on my computer.
Nope,
So
you're good
I'll
too.
just use my phone. Okay,
We
thank
can
you.
see you and hear you. Oh, you might
I
be
see,
calling
it
in
might
as
be,
well.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. That's
Okay.
fine, Rebecca.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe we'll just keep an eye out in case, because I know we're expecting some.
Yeah, we had one person tell us they intended to add, but we did get to public comment very, very quickly. Did we have any email comments come in?
There's nothing here, no, sir.
All right. And all those in the room are here for topics, I think. So. All right, we'll just keep that open. If a caller does come in, we can come back to public comment then. All right, with that, we will go into the staff committees, organizational reports and presentations. And the first one up is our VDOT report. Holly, and then I also see Rebecca. Are y'all?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'll just give a quick report, and since the time that we submitted the report, obviously a lot has changed in terms of weather, so I'll provide an update on our weather operations and upcoming for the next event as well. So our Amelia area headquarters, the work that was submitted in the monthly report was planned work for February. So since we have had so many winter weather storms, a lot of that work is yet to happen. It is scheduled, and we'll try to get to it as soon as we can get through these storm events. Our land use staff, I know last month this was also in the report, but we have received additional complaints about logging trucks damaging roadways or tracking mud onto state maintained roadways. So we're continuing to track those down and make sure those logging companies are in compliance with their permits. In terms of traffic studies, the Route 360 arterial preservation plan, there was a second public comment period, probably about a month ago now. And so our consultant is sifting through those comments and incorporating those into their final recommendations at this point. Chula Road, Route 604, we're doing a speed study on that route between Route 360 and the Powhatan County line, as Mr. Scott requested. Powhatan County also requested a speed study of Route 604 on their side, so we're doing the entire route. So data collection is underway for that, and we'll certainly report back any findings we have there. Construction projects, Route 360 bridge replacement is underway, as well as the Route 681 Clementown Road bridge repairs. We did execute a contract with Whitehurst Paving for the surface treatment routes for this coming year, and they are expected to start patching in advance of those surface treatment operations later this month, weather depending. So just a final update on storm cleanup before I'll open it up to any questions you all may have. We do still have a handful of roads closed in Amelia County, mostly due to power lines in trees, things that we're waiting on Dominion or Southside Electric to clear up for us before we can get those roads open. And we have had a few that we've had to close since the ice storm last weekend due to flooding. So as the melting has occurred and we've had more precipitation, those river levels are rising, and we have had to close a couple routes as a result. Since there was so much damage in terms of trees and power lines and things like that, of course, you will see a lot of debris along the roadways in Amelia County. Our district is employing a debris contractor. In addition to Amelia County, obviously the counties to the south of us in Petersburg and South Hill residencies were also very hard hit during the ice storm. And so they're going to employ kind of a district-wide contract that will be responsible for documenting the debris and clearing it and disposing of it off of Vdot right of way. And that the goal of that contract in documenting all that debris is that this will likely be an event that's eligible for federal reimbursement through FEMA. And so by documenting all of that, we intend to seek reimbursement for those expenses that we've had in clearing the roadways. So while we're cleaning up from the last storm, we're prepping for the one to come. We will enter 24-hour operations starting at midnight tonight for the upcoming storm event, and we'll work. Seems like it'll probably be similar to the last storm. We'll continue working until any road closures, impacts from trees or power lines are clear, and we'll go through the same process of documenting debris and getting that clear off of our roadways. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you all may have or comments for me.
I think y'all done a great job. getting the roads clean. It was a mess out there.
I made a note to add one thing during this, and Rebecca and I have talked about this offline. I don't think I sent y'all this email. We have been getting some calls. 'Tis the season of mailboxes getting accidentally hit by plows. A lot of people want to call the county. There is an entire claims process for that through VDOT, and she sent me that whole process. I'm happy to share that with y'all. I don't know if maybe your constituents will call you guys about it. But if a mailbox gets hit, there is a claims process that the resident can go through to get that fixed.
Sure. So
Yeah,
maybe
thanks, Al.
you can post that on maybe you can post it on county website and
Yeah, that'd be
Facebook page
helpful.
too. Yeah. Sorry, Rebecca. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's generally true for any damage that someone suspects that VDOT or one of our contractors has done to their property, and we'll do a claims investigation on that.
What happened to through trucks on Butler Road? Was she part of that, or was that just a county thing?
That is something that I need to follow up on, but the winter's just been a little too busy for that. I saw that in my to-do list, but she gave us the information. It's now, the last thing we left it with was for us to do a survey of the citizens along that road to see what their feelings were and then come back to the board here. Holly has already offered to help with that. It's on me from a time standpoint. So.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Worley. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I
Right.
think we have a new call in you, sir. I don't know if it's
Oh.
maybe public comment.
Maybe so. We got a new caller, calling user number 3. Is that someone calling in about a public comment?
I am a new caller, but I am Candy Hayes. I'm representing Southside Center for Violence Prevention. I'm having
Okay.
technical difficulties with my camera, so.
That's fine. That's fine, Ms. Hayes. We've got you about 2 from now on the agenda. We'll come right back to you then.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Uh-huh. Okay, we will move to school board next. Dr. Harper?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The month of February marks the annual observance of School Board Appreciation Month. This is a time to salute the work of our board members and celebrate public education. Amelia County Schools board members must develop policy and make tough decisions on complex educational and social issues that impact our community. I invite you to recognize and celebrate the work of our board members. The men and women who are serving Amelia County on our school board include Ms. Catherine Wilkinson in District 1, Mr. Glenn Wilkerson, District 2, Mr. Michael Neller, District 3, Ms. Bonnie Vega, District 4, and Mr. Jim Ferrara, District 5. This week also represents School Board Clerk Appreciation Week, and we recognize our board clerk, Mary Beth Smith, and Deputy Clerk Monica Jackson. During the February board meeting, the school board voted to participate in strategic planning to engage our school division and our community in creating a plan to guide our actions moving forward. Cambridge Strategic Services will be facilitating this strategic planning process, and we hope to begin in a few months. February is also Black History Month. Our schools have planned class lessons, virtual programs, daily school-wide announcements, and special events highlighting famous African Americans. And 2 more things. Over the past 2 years, we've been working on updating all of our policies and regulations, and we have just completed that process. And our January enrollment was 1574. Our current ADM is 1561. Ms. Bullock's going to share the financial reports.
So in your board book tonight, you should have the January 2021 financial reports. Our revenues and expenses should be at about 58% from 7 months through the fiscal year. They are 49.22%, well under budget.
That's the one that shows up.
The BOE will give us a new output on Friday, and they have issued a hold harmless ADM for FY21, and they have issued, they're gonna change the budget a little bit for FY 22, but the whole Romulus ADM should result in a revenue increase for FY 21. When we get all of that information, we'll continue. But we also tonight are asking for, 2 appropriations. One is the 2021 BTSS grant for $22,000. These are state funds and they assist in implementing the BTSS grant or BTSS program through the no local matches required. And the second is a Title III grant. A portion of the funds are a carryover from last year and another portion would be our FY 21 award. The total appropriation for Title III would be $7,440. Those are federal funds and again require local match.
What is VTSS?
Virginia Tiered Systems of Support. It helps school divisions work on tiering layers of support for both academic needs for students as well as behavioral needs for students.
Okay.
We'd also like to share with you about how many families we served today.
So we served meals for our Amelia children today at the elementary school. Did way more people show up than we anticipated, and we served 4,440 meals today to bring back our sample for everybody that came out.
4,000?
4,000.
Great,
Yeah. 5 meals for each.
I heard they wiped out food lines.
We went to food only 3 times.
Oh,
Okay.
So, again, we're asking for your approval.
Yep.
Yes.
I move we approve the 2 appropriations from the schools that's presented.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, sign aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign? All right, you have that. I just want to comment, Dr. Harper, back to your strategic planning effort. We know after we had a lengthy discussion last fall, we were really excited about that one. I know you were also, but there had been, COVID that had gotten in the way. So I'm really excited to see you're able to make some progress on that now, and looking forward to those results too.
Great. Well, we'll be looking for members of the community to participate in this process.
Good.
We'll be sharing some more information in the coming months.
Excellent. And I know we have some CIP requests that have gone through the CIP committee that we'll be discussing some of y'all's in our next workshop at the beginning of March too. So sounds good. Is that all for your items?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate it. All right. We'll now move to Board of Supervisors Committee and Activity Report. We'll start with District 1 and cycle through.
All right. Pretty busy month. January, we met with the planning commission and we discussed the smaller lots in the industrial park. I think we're going to discuss that here in a little bit. The CIP committee met in February. It went good. I think the new process was well received on how to stack items and do that.
Good.
We set in on the kickoff for the compensation study. Good information. I'm very interested to see how the plan was received by the department heads. Then the ice storm hit. Had several meetings with county staff and social services, emergency management, and we decided to open the fire stations as emergency shelters due to road conditions. People really couldn't get to the courthouse, but we were able to open Station 1 as an overnight shelter if we needed it. Of course, the school system supplies some food for us. Today I had my Piedmont Jail Authority meeting. Amelia's average is about 60 people there for the last 3 months, which is in our normal range. We are about 80% of our budgeted funds so far. They had no positive COVID cases in inmates or staff. They're pretty happy about that. And their internal audit was done, and then they are good for 3 years. They did have one concern. He listed out the top 5 inmates for each county and what their medical costs are. And Amelia's last month was like $2,300. The highest was $9,800 out of one county. So we were at the very low end of that. And they're working on trying to work with some Medicare to try to get those costs down. And I also sent a copy of that to Brenda to put in the minutes. Thank y'all.
Thank you. District 2.
That's me. Okay, I attended, we all attended 3 departmental budget meetings. I won't go into much detail on that. We all know what happened there. Attended 2 broadband update meetings, which, do you plan on giving an update, Taylor, in your county administrator report, or should I do it?
I think you should. I
Okay.
think it'd be better. Yes, sir.
At the first meeting earlier, actually in January, the main water tower, the GBC water tower, and the Featherstone tower were all getting really close to being finished. At the last meeting, it's been announced that all 3 of those are now basically online. They're just, some of them are finished with field testing and some of them are finishing up field testing. So they're looking for customers to do beta testing, to actually sign up and do it. So I volunteered and they sent someone out to my place the next day. Anybody that wants to do that, I assume they would just call River Street. And today, or this Tuesday's meeting, it was announced that the Manborough Tower that we were having so many issues with has been approved. So we've been given the green light to go ahead and start building that tower, which is awesome.
Yes.
I also met with a potential candidate for my supervisor seat in November. He says he's not interested after learning how much time is involved.
That's understandable.
Yeah. I attended the STEPS board meeting, which we went over the annual audit in great detail. I'm the chair of the audit committee, so I was involved in that. And it's complicated because of Head Start. That's a very complicated audit. I attended the CLEO meeting. Not much really happened there this month, but I attended it for Sean and Joseph who couldn't make it.
Thank you.
I sent a separate report to you guys. Had a meeting with Holly, nice meeting with Holly on GIS and some other topics. It was great. We attended the EDA meeting. Several new business prospects were discussed in closed session. And we're discussing the remaining lots in there and how to subdivide them. There'll be some changes coming up later in the meeting for that. And we had a presentation by Rethink Main Street, a consultant who works with counties to redevelop their village atmosphere. Had a good meeting with the animal shelter committee. We've narrowed it down. We had, I think, 5 or 6 candidates, and we've did a decision matrix and selected one. And we have awarded that to them. We're just waiting for Jeff to finish reviewing the contract and get it back, and then we'll be able to go with that. And we came in under budget, only 16,000 for that, for the feasibility study.
Nice.
And today, or the last few days, Holly and I have met with 3 potential companies for the GIS project, and that's coming along. And we think we know what we're going to do, but we're just waiting for some final numbers to come in for end of next week.
Good, thank you. All right, 3.
Most of the meetings I attended over the last month were the ones that we all had together, so no need to be redundant. I thank Roger for doing Clio for me. I did attend the Virginia Heartland region board meeting, and I haven't done everything like David said. I still want to explain everything, but I've been spending the last month pretty much concentrating on my family, so
Sure.
I hadn't got there yet. But at the Heartland board, there are 2 projects going. One of them, I believe, from the last meeting is about to be able to go public with it. They're both closed sessions. It's a pretty big project. And I believe they're talking something like 30 or 40 jobs, I think. In it's the industrial park right at, I believe it's just past the Keysville exit where the Tiger Cat is. And the first one's, I think they're doing the final closing agreement on it right now. It's pretty big. And then there's a second potential huge project, which I'm not too sure about yet. But so it looks like there's people have interest in the park. And of course, it's what, 35, 40 miles from here, but it's still within driving distance and not much out that way. So, I can see the benefits that we could reap from it. And I believe that is all that I've done since our last meeting.
Thank you. We'll just keep with our number order if you're okay. As Mr. Phelps mentioned, the HR committee, this was our first official meeting. I spent a good bit of time offline talking to Carla and Holly and others. Had a conversation directly with Baker Tilly. So that's been a good bit of time. I'm very pleased, like David was saying, about the progress of that. I think it's a little behind where we originally wanted it to be, but between holidays and just getting things kicked off, I think the end result is going to be well worth it. And so happy with that for the most part. Did a full day training from VACO, the Chairpersons Institute. I wouldn't say a lot brand new came out of that, but just some good reminders about best practices, and did actually include a really nice presentation from our neighbors in Dinwiddie, County Administrator Kevin Massengill there, and a lot of great progress that Dinwiddie's seen that I think can be very applicable to Amelia as well. As Ryder mentioned, a good bit of focus on IDA, both the meeting as well as just a lot of offline conversation and progress there. And then yes, probably the budget's the biggest consumer. There's the meetings that we've had that were public, as well as more follow-up emails and conversations that can be counted with people trying to get all that information together. But as was reported in the paper last week, things look really promising.
All right. 2 meetings of the community management planning team, and that's one of which was a call meeting, not a call meeting, but call meeting. And the regular meeting, well, it's a special situation we had to deal with in terms of placement problem until we had those 2 meetings. Also, Taylor and I met with Jordan Miles, as a matter of fact, from Commission, the Tobacco Commission, and talked about some resources that might be available to help us on the kind of projects that might be applicable to media, as a matter of fact. And so that was good.
That would be good.
Good communication there. We can see some things that happened there. Took a COVID shot.
Good for you.
I was informed that any board member who wants to, all you need to do is to contact the health department, and they'll put you in the SAP, primarily because they consider you essential to ongoing activities in the county. And so 27 and 11, I believe, 561, 27 and 11. And so, and it's painless, by the way, not bad. Other than that, a lot of calls from on Love Broadband. We talked about that, and I'm glad they're indicating that they're looking for folks to test. There's some folks that who will be calling them. I know from Hollywood. Nothing else to that.
Hi, can you see about zooming out?
Yeah.
A little bit. We're missing Taylor and David. I know they really want to be on camera.
Mr. Chairman, Allison is public commenter.
Oh, good.
She was having technical difficulties, but.
Thank you, Allison. Glad you could make it in. We were trying to message and get that taken care of. So we'll go ahead and catch up with Allison for public comment now, and then Ms. Hayes, you'll be next on our agenda. So.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay today?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. I do appreciate all of y'all's help in trying to get me in here. Sorry, I was having a hard time, but I just, I wanted to speak to y'all and say I hope you and yours are safe and well. And during public comment, I just wanted to make a request of the board to please implore the county to purchase and install address markers for all residents. In some places, they call them like EMS markers or 911 markers. And you can see these in other counties. Prince Edward County, I know you just call the county administrator's office and they actually come and install it for free at the end of your driveway. And they aren't quite the same as the ones that we pay $25 for here in the county, but I just think their value is immeasurable. So I just, in conversations with our postmaster, our emergency services volunteers, both fire and rescue, along with postal and delivery persons, it just really seems like the need exists for every driveway to be marked for our safety preparedness. And, you know, if emergency services are responding to a fire, that might be easy to find, but not always so easy for a medical emergency. And in these times, there's more deliveries going on to homes than ever. So there's just multifold reasons. So I know it would need to be a collaboration between the local law enforcement office. I know Ron has been working on it, I believe, and our emergency management office, public works, planning. But I think it would, I think we deserve it as citizens to be safe. And I would love to see the county fund that for the benefit of all. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I did not identify myself. Maybe Allison here in Jetersville.
Thank you. I should have done better, but we knew it was you because you were trying to get in. No problem.
I apologize. Yes, I should have
You're
started
fine.
that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment on? I think we had a little email this afternoon. I think Taylor, you're doing some follow-up work just to get some more information on that, right? And then we can revisit it. Okay. Good.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yes.
Raina and I have talked to her quite a bit before this, and Raina has a ton of information on it.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something y'all would want to deep dive into at a workshop, but there's a ton of history with this. So y'all can ponder on that. But yeah, like you said, Taylor's been.
We've discussed it multiple times in the fire department, emergency services. They're currently, I have one at my house. The green ones are reflective. I think you can purchase them
In
now.
the sheriff's office, yeah,
Wow.
$15. Yeah.
And,
15.
Yeah.
and we had discussed before doing drives or something for them. I mean, from my point of view, the only thing, this is gonna sound harsh, but whether I can find you isn't my problem. If you need me, that's your problem, not mine in a way, you know, from the emergency services side, we'd love to be able to find you, but I mean, you know, if that's something that everybody should bear the burden of paying for. I bought one just to advertise that. I mean, I do like them, I support them, but I kind of stand on both sides as to who should bear the cost of it.
Yeah, I have similar as well. My understanding is they're selling them basically at cost anyway. And so if we bear the cost of it, then essentially that money gets turned right back around and taxpayers are funding. So either way, the taxpayers are funding it, whether they buy just their own or they're paying it in their taxes for everybody to get them. Yeah. As the two emergency services volunteers, would y'all like to maybe look at some of Raina's information offline, and then if you have a recommendation for us,
Yeah, we can.
suggest it back for our board?
Yep. we got
Okay.
some.
All right.
We have three.
Well, I'm at board.
And there are
You
some,
wanted us some feedback too?
Well, I know he's already in.
there are some confusing, you'll go some places and there's 6 to 8 mailboxes down one drive. And if they don't have those signs, it does get very confusing, but I just don't know what the best answer is.
But like in that case, you're saying they would really need more than one sign anyway. They need the ones that are at the turn in.
Well, these
And
would,
then-
you would post at your house, right?
Gotcha.
Or the entrance to your house, at your
I've
driveway.
got some family members would be similar.
And
Okay.
the ones I've seen in Nottaway, some of them, they go missing. Now you've done it, but now it's not there anymore.
Yeah, so do you keep buying them?
Right.
Okay. All right, we appreciate y'all.
We'll come up.
The follow up on that.
I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Ms. Hayes, I think you're up next, Southside Center for Violence Prevention.
Thank you. Good evening. As you stated, my name is Candy Hayes. I am the Domestic Violence Program Director for Southside Center for Violence Prevention, the agency of Madeline's House, the Domestic Violence Program, and SAVE, our Sexual Assault Victim Empowerment Program. First, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity for tonight to speak, and thank you, Mr. Harvey, and the Supervisor, Sean Ryan, for making sure I had everything together of how to access the meeting tonight. You guys have been a great continued support system for us over the years, and we thank you for that. Secondly, I'd like to share with you our efforts that we had for 2020. We continue to provide free and confidential services to our clientele and to continue counseling and crisis intervention, advocacy and accompaniment, education, resources and referrals, and shelter to victims of dating violence, domestic violence, and sexual violence, such as sexual harassment, sexual assault, and sex trafficking. We continue to provide these services to victims who reside in Amelia County. In 2020, we served a total of 7 individuals and provided approximately 175 bed nights to the individuals in the county. As you may remember, last year we expanded our therapy program by having all of our clinical staff trained specifically in play therapy. We expanded our food donation program to our community clients and established ourselves as a facility for sheltering animals and families together. We discovered that clientele victims were not leaving in situations where they had a pet, whether just a general domestic pet, or whether they consider it their service, their emotional support animal. They was choosing to stay in the abusive situation because they could not take their pet into any shelters. There are limited shelters across the state that allow individuals to bring in a pet, whether cat or dog, that is not a certified service animal for ADA compliance. So we decided that we to try to offset this somehow to where they're still getting services and not having to stay in those situations, that we decided to make our shelter a pet-friendly shelter. So we have a kennel that was built on the backside of our property for bigger animals, bigger dogs, and those that are considered house pets, that they're able to stay with the resident in the shelter. This year, our efforts to continue our strategic plan quickly halted, as with a lot of people, with the shift with COVID-19. While many businesses closed or shifted to online services, we have victims living in our shelter. So we were unable to take that route and were forced to find ways to improve our facility and practices in a way that allowed us to continue to serving victims while also trying to keep staff and clients safe. For example, we usually have 24 beds available, but with the pandemic, we no longer allow individuals to share rooms, so who were not family, limiting us to 7 rooms. We were able to keep our doors open for most of the pandemic, though we had to initially limit the number of clients to 5 people to abide by state restrictions with the amount of staff that we had based on whatever the clientele situation was. In situations where we had to limit our bed space, we were offered hotel stays or referrals to other shelters. Additionally, because we knew it was difficult for clients to be able to house hunt during this time, we lifted our 30-day restriction for emergency sheltering and provided many extensions to be able to accommodate them not being able to go to appointments because of COVID restrictions with other agencies as well. In addition to our shelter services, we continue providing counseling, though we had to temporarily stop offering support groups for safety reasons. As you may remember, we have a clinical psychologist on staff. As she has not been formally trained in school to provide telehealth, she and one of our master level clinicians, that would be myself, both completed an extensive nationally recognized program in telehealth and did exhaustive research on telehealth platforms for our current clients who cannot continue to engage in in-person services for counseling because of COVID. We were able to offer a transition to telehealth services, knowing the fact that if someone has already started the process of healing and going through counseling, halting that, regardless of whether there's a COVID pandemic or any other situation, would have been detrimental to them. So we found another avenue to be able to reach them and for them to be able to continue to heal and provide the counseling services that they needed. We've also continued offering advocacy and accompaniment such as accompanying victims to hospitals, courts, or other appointments. Unfortunately, there were times when appointments and/or accompaniment was limited by other facilities due to COVID restrictions, in which case we provided accompaniment to office parking lots where some people were doing, that's how they were doing shelter exchange for getting their kids or doing a supervised visit or something. We quickly figured out ways to think outside of the box in this. The most significant change to our service was our education and outreach program. With the pandemic, fall festivals and fairs, such as the Amelia Fair and the Amelia Fall Festival, called Amelia Day Festival, I apologize, were all canceled throughout counties that we serve, so we did not have the opportunity to table with our outreach materials or to present to groups on violence and prevention. Our outreach staff uses time to create materials individualized to different groups, such as first responders and teachers, and to keep a presence on social media. So if anyone knows of any place that may need our material put out in the county, or if you would like some of our materials to put out yourself in wherever civic group or organization or office that you're a part of, please let our office know that we will gladly get information to you. I know I'm there in Amelia quite frequently. My mother works for the county. I can gladly get information to her. She knows I use her whenever I need to get materials in the county of Amelia. So please just let our office know, and we will get you however much material and whatever population-specific material you're trying to find. We will get that information to you to help get out the fact that services are still available regardless if there's a pandemic, because unfortunately with people being housed with their abusers and not able to leave the house like they normally do for work or what have you, it is increasing their likelihood of violence. So if you're able to assist us in getting out materials, please do so. Please just reach out to our office and we'll gladly get you info that you can just put out wherever you feel free to need to. But thank you for your time, and over the storm that we just passed, I know a lot of people are still recovering, and the storm that we have pending, please be safe and with your families and on the roads. First responders, thank you. If you have any questions for me, I will gladly entertain.
Thank you for that and for all that you and your organization do.
Thank you.
Do we know if they've sent in their official or a formal funding request for this year?
Yes, we have submitted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. That's a good point. I meant to ask Carla that this week, if we've received all of them from the folks we kind of anticipate. Because I think we had a little bit of a delay of some of those last time.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't look at that section specifically. Okay, make a note on that. Okay. All right, thank you again.
Hug on TV.
What's that?
He was just getting a hug on TV.
Oh, nice. Good. All right, we'll go ahead and just adjust the order then and go with our three additional guests that we have on video here today. Mr. Harvey, do you want to start with the health department? Do you have, I don't know if you have any intro to that one, or you just want to go straight to?
Well, David Martin, who's in Farmville, has graciously agreed to appear and talk about what's driving his life right now. And I think we can just turn it over to him, and
Sounds
I'm
great.
sure he'd be glad to entertain questions as well. Mr. Martin?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to get out and speak with you. As Mr. Harvey said, COVID has been the driving force in public health for the last 334 days. We've experienced a call volume at our locations beyond the capacity of our systems. And we are doing the best we can right now. We are drinking from the proverbial fire hose, but we are every day claiming the little victories. So as it stands right now, especially in particular to Amelia County, we are pushing out vaccine every drop and every vial of vaccine that we get each week is, we do a fair share and an equitable allocation for each location. I will say that the amount of vaccine that we receive in our shipments is a drop in the proverbial bucket. Although the health department, we're not heavily staffed. We are still well within our manpower capacity right now to give the vaccine we have. When time comes and vaccine supplies are increased, we anticipate the ability to get out and to conduct mass vaccination events. In the beginning, there will probably be smaller events, pop-up, what we call pop-up points of dispensing or pop-up pods. At this time, there's just not enough vaccine to do that. Each week, the district receives 1,200 doses to share amongst 7 localities. By the time you balance the capabilities of the healthcare providers that have agreed and gone through the CDC process to get on board to redistribute vaccine to, there's not a lot. We have about 28 providers that have gone through that process in the Piedmont Health District. After we look at their capabilities and their capacity to push what little vaccine we get, we are generally having to tell at least on average about a half dozen a week that we can't resupply them. It's discouraging. We're being told that vaccine supplies will increase. I will say, though, that we are moving into the phase where second doses are becoming necessary. So that's also tapping into the supply. And I expect some lead times for the foreseeable future. As it stands right now, today the governor announced in a press conference the statewide automated system for pre-registration. As it has been explained to us, a caller with phone access or internet access can gain a way into that. It'll go through some quick vetting questions to ensure that they're in the right phase. It'll collect some data points, contact information, things of that nature. At a later time, that information is downloaded back or handed off back to the local health department for scheduling. So the health department's pretty much kind of taken a black eye here lately, and in regards to the sign up and appointment process, I'll tell you a little bit of the history behind that. The CDC developed, along with the federal side, developed a software system that they were trying to get a consistent method across all 50 states. That system was called VAMS. We were restricted or required to only use that system to conduct pre-registration and appointment signups and things of that nature. That system did not live up to its marketing capabilities, and has become an impediment. So we had to resort back to paper list. The Commonwealth, seeing that the VAM system was not going to cut the mustard, is taking the initiative to purchase a software system from an outside vendor that we are transitioning to, and that's what is behind the call center that was announced today. That system will have the capability to do online pre-registration. Of the call center will be to put callers straight into the system. The callers who have made contact with us at the local level, at the health department, we have not forgotten you. We have held place markers in. So just because this new system came online, you will not lose your place. You will not be put behind folks that went to a website yesterday or today or tomorrow. And since you've been on our list for 4 to 5 weeks, we're still working through that. At this time, our folks have transitioned our paper list into a digital electronic format that can be handed off to the call center to be included into the centralized database. That way folks can call and find out where they are on a list to check to make sure. They'll get confirmation that they're on the list, and they'll be able to get an idea of how much longer. I just checked at the beginning of this meeting. I just pulled up our list from Amelia County. It was well over 1,200 folks in the waiting line. So, you know, we're moving through our stopgap, so to speak. Will be our local health departments and the providers that have signed up to assist us. Right now, we just don't have the vaccine. Every bit of vaccine we get is usually comes in on a Monday, and it's pushed out to either clinics or providers by Thursday, and then by the following Monday, when the next delivery comes in, it's allocated. It's going in arms. Nobody's sitting on it. There's nobody stockpiling it or putting it away for a rainy day. At this time, you know, we are working through as a transition to get kids back in school. We've concentrated some of our efforts to try to get the school teachers through and the school staff through that are actually be face-to-face in classrooms to get them on the in process. You know, so our local clinic there in Amelia has been, you know, picking folks off the waiting list that have their teachers and janitors that work in the schools and food service folks that work in the schools, and getting them in and getting them vaccinated. The direction from our central office and direction from the governor's staff, you know, so the priority list, the frontline essential workers, the folks that qualify by age and the folks that qualify by medical condition, we do a 50-50 split when we have open appointments. Say, for an example, we have 10 open appointments. Well, 5 of those will go to frontline essential workers, and then the other 5 will be split between those who qualify by age and those who qualify by medical condition. And as it stands right now, we continue to work through those. Each of our individual health departments, we are double booking. We are rotating staff around to assist and be able to give more shots and bolster what we call a double book. So we're able to push more folks through. Right now, we have a lot of folks, you know, in line, but we don't have vaccine to give them. So until that situation gets better, it's going to be some lean times. A lot of folks are upset with us, and you know, until the supply chain stabilizes, it's going to continue. Plans are, you know, steps are underway. You know, we'll have those conversations when the supply gets strong enough that we can start doing mass events. And we look at each of our localities with the same footing in that, because we're all in the, you know, this together. We understand that. From our side, we just our health director just retired. We have an interim who will be, you know, making the introductions. I think Dr. Nash is leaving us on Friday, and Dr. Adekoya will be coming on board first thing next week. As she gets settled in, we'll get her around and introduce her to each of the folks in the localities. She is a very seasoned public health doctor and has worked with VDH for quite a few years. So she'll be covering in the interim until a more permanent replacement can be recruited and brought on board. At this time, I'll open it up to any questions anyone may have.
I guess my only question is there anything we can do to help?
So right now, with the poor supply of vaccine, we're really in a holding pattern. What we anticipate, and we will be broaching that conversation with you at a later time, when supply gets strong enough that we can start doing these mass events, we'll be coming to the localities requesting assistance, and that'll be it'll be a full spectrum kind of approach. You know, we've practiced before. Being a rural locality, a rural health district as we are, drive-throughs are really work great. You can do them with a lot less people. You keep folks contained. They're in a comforting area. They're in their vehicle. They're with their family, or they're with somebody. So we would probably be looking at a drive-through model, something most likely with your school system or on your school grounds. And when we get to that point, we'll be asking for like, some traffic assistance, probably some help with registration, and probably some help with security. So from your sheriff's department, things of that nature. Folks are anxious. Folks are quick to anger at these things, and so that will be a necessity. We're not quite there yet. We're not getting the indications that supply is going to really take off unless another manufacturers. Right now, currently, Johnson & Johnson is in what is called the emergency use authorization process. That is a one-shot, a one-dose vaccine. As it works its way through the process, there may be some more of that will come available. AstraZeneca has started the EUA process also, but the indications that we get that a large portion of the AstraZeneca, once approved, will go out of country, or actually it's not even in country. It'll be diverted to other places in the world that have not even gotten their first batches. So I think we're looking at some lean times for the foreseeable future. And, right as the supply is just a trickle right now, we're going to have to make the best we can with it. I would estimate, though, by early summer, we probably will be having this conversation and looking at mass events and moving forward. I did have an opportunity to speak with Dr. Adekoya today, and her attitude and mindset is that if we can get the vaccine, we're looking in the Piedmont Health District to doing at least 3 pop-up events a week somewhere in the area. And so that'll be rotating. We'd like, as it stands in the planning process, something reoccurring every couple of weeks. We come to Amelia County, we run a couple of hundred folks through. It'll be an appointment-based thing. We'll work them off the list and move on, and then come back at an incremental time, so we can assure when we come back around at the 28-day mark, we're able to give the second dose to those folks too. And we'll keep chipping away at that until we get the list down, and hopefully by then vaccine supply will be solid. So
I've heard that Amelia Pharmacy is giving shots. Is that one of the 28 providers?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It is. It is one. It's a small mover. We're able to, so when we get our vaccine shipment, we look, 1,200 doses for 102,000 people. It's really hard to sit there and split straws on how to divvy that up. We look at their capability, what they're able to push through, and we try to resupply them as often as we can. I'm sure they're just like us. They probably can do more, but right now this is the best we can sustain with the supply we have. I think we're resupplying them at least every 2 weeks, and keeping them caught up. And then Southern Dominion Health Services, the site there at the corner at Otterburn, I believe it is, the Amelia site. They've signed on also. Right now, I think they are offering one day a week. They're offering a window there. I expect them to expand that when supply gets better. A lot of our providers, so it's the vaccine is very tricky. It's not like we deal a lot with flu and other vaccines. It's very fragile. The temperature requirements are stringent, and we work through that as best we can to deliver. We try to ensure that the guidelines from the CDC side have pretty much come to the point we have to give them a kidney if we waste any doses. So, you know, we don't want to, we try our best to ensure that we have 10 folks lined up when we puncture a vial. You know, it's got a stringent temperature control. Once we puncture the vial, we have so many hours to move to get the vaccine out. You know, it's tough, but we're getting a lot better at handling it. I think we've only had one instance where we had a power loss and a generator failure all at the same time, and we did lose some doses there, but it was minimal. So you know, it's a learning curve, but we're well on our way. So, any other questions?
I just have one more, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
The CVS and Walgreens thing that supposedly will be getting doses, are those separate from that VDH gets?
Yes and no. So the Cvs Walgreens Partnership, that was a partnership developed at the federal level, primarily going into, you know, their big task, the licensed long-term care facilities, skilled nursing facilities and rest homes across the Commonwealth, actually across the country. So the premise behind that was teams from those facilities or franchises or contractors, however you want to say it, would make 6 attempts or 6 visits to each site. They'll make three visits for first doses and three visits for second doses.
Okay. So you won't be able to go into Walgreens and get a shot?
The discussion is at this point, eventually that you may be able to. As it stands right now, though, none of I believe there's 36 CVS's and Walgreens in the Commonwealth have signed up, but their supplies just haven't let them go mainstream. I don't think that your Amelia site is one that is on the list, but that may change. I'm not going to say, you know, hard and fast. They were using the federal partnership was using Pfizer, which is an ultra cold vaccine, which has to be kept at -80. And so a lot of your smaller CVSs really don't have that capability outside of, you know, your larger areas. That takes some pretty specific equipment to keep a vaccine and at that temperature and also record the data. I think that's probably going to be an inhibiting factor, because I think that's probably the reason why the smaller CVSs in the rural communities haven't come on board with it yet. They are using the Pfizer vaccine. Now that could change. There could be a supply break loose and things happen, but from the understanding what we've been briefed, that number, their numbers don't count against us. So they're not taking from our pocket.
Any other questions?
I will say this. So each week, the Commonwealth requests vaccine from the federal government in excess of about 330-some thousand doses we've asked. And for the last 4 weeks straight, we've only received somewhere between 110 and 120,000 doses. So we've been getting a third of what we've asked for the last month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like having a really super fast race car, and we have no gas in the tank right now. So we can go, just give us some gas. So we're waiting.
Thank you for taking the time to update us tonight. We appreciate all that you and your teams are doing.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your time, and we're here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be glad to get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go with David C. next, and then Forrest will be after David. So we do have David C. from State Taxation Department, I believe, with us tonight. And Mr. C., I kind of thought Laura Walsh was going to be on as well to introduce you in this subject. so I apologize, but the board received some information from Ms. Walsh as the Commissioner of Revenue. She's been working with the state regarding the real estate assessment ratios, and therefore we asked you to come in and talk to us about that. So that's about all I can do for an intro, I'm afraid, and I will turn it over to you if you could give us a bit more information.
All right, sir. Thank you, Amelia. It's our pleasure to be here tonight representing the tax department. We really don't have a scripted questions from you all, so we're just here to provide general information if you request it. I'm going to introduce you to our new tax director, Mr. Rod Compton, and let him lead our unit's discussion. Rod?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much for having us this evening, like David said. We're certainly here to help in any way we can. Generally, if there is a specific question we can address, we will. But I believe that the question arose that with the eroding assessment ratios that are occurring now, what would be the prudent step for Amelia moving forward with regards to reassessment? Should it occur with a limited scope, from what I understand, in the near future, or should that be at a more comprehensive reassessment done at a later date? Is that what we're looking for this evening?
Can you take a step back from that and explain the real estate assessment ratios for us and what the requirements are from the state, and then go into the portions you described?
Sure, of course. The ratio studies there's actually two separate ratio studies that are done for the state, done by the state. The first one is the annual ratio study report that is utilized for the calculation of the school composite index, and also is the official study that's done for counties throughout, localities throughout the Commonwealth. That study is typically, for example, we just released the 2019 study. So that study is typically lags behind a couple of years with real data. The second report that's done is the estimated ratio study. And that ratio study uses the most current reassessment data with sales from the previous calendar year. So essentially, you would be using your January 1 reassessment data for review. That would be your most current reassessment compared to the sales that occurred throughout 2020. And David performs that ratio and can certainly answer any more in-depth questions with regards to that. I apologize. That ratio study is used directly for the valuation of your public service properties. It's a direct ratio that the lower essentially that ratio goes, the lower the public service valuation that the county receives for that portion of their public service properties.
Can you describe in layman's terms for the public that might be listening in what exactly an eroding ratio means?
Sure. The state, when a reassessment is performed, the target ratio by the Code of Virginia is 100%. So a property that sells after a reassessment, when you're measuring the accuracy of that reassessment, should, in theory, sell for 100% compared to the sale price and the assessment figure. So by code, the target, which we all know is a target that's out there that's difficult to reach, is the ratio should be 100%. As time goes on and reassessment cycles increase, typically in an appreciating market like we're seeing now, those sale prices tend to be higher than the assessed value. So that ratio goes down. So, for example, David, you can chime in here, but I believe in the 2019 study that was just released, the ratio for Amelia was 78%. Is that correct, David? Is that
close enough? Yes.
Yes. And for example, when David got the preliminary numbers to perform the estimated ratio, which is utilizing sales throughout 2020, that ratio is now decreased down to around 74%. So as time is progressing out, that ratio continues to decrease as long as the real estate market continues to increase.
So if a house sold for $100,000, its assessment was $78,000. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What's the required number again? It cannot get below what?
We're talking about the target would be 100% of fair market value is what you would love for your assessments to be.
Right.
The state has a very broad range. Penalties do not typically arise until you get below the 70 percentile range or above 130. So as you continue to erode, obviously in this market we're seeing now where sale prices are continuing to increase, you're beginning to see that ratio creep up to that lower limit.
Okay, so I mean, I can understand why the state would be concerned if you're going above the 100%. I mean, essentially we're assessing taxes at a higher rate than people can actually sell their property for. What's the state's concern when it goes lower?
Exactly. The ability to pay for schools.
Again, those ratios are utilized in a couple of different things. They're utilized, one, for the Public Service Corporation valuation. So the SEC values the market value or the true value of that property for public service corporations, and then that a ratio is applied directly to that figure. So the actual value that the locality will receive tax on is based on the value times that ratio. So the lower that ratio goes, the less that public service valuation is for the county. And then that ratio is also utilized in the composite index for school funding.
All right, to Roger's layman's terms point, the problem is you expect we're going to get to 70% or below before our next scheduled real estate assessment cycle. And so
yeah, I do believe that was the concern of the commissioner, yes.
That's what I'm understanding too, just to make sure we're on the same page.
Which way does it affect school funding? If it goes up, do we get more funding? If values go up?
No. The county has to pay more in funding if our composite index goes up. We have the ability to pay more.
So that's why the state penalizes you.
That's right. That's why they don't want it to go too low.
That's why I couldn't figure out why they would penalize you. Because they're trying to get out of paying.
Of course. And our unit has absolutely nothing to do with that composite index.
Well, that's why we said the state period, yeah, not the department, yeah.
State, right.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense.
If I may say, gentlemen, actually it's the other way around. If your ratio goes down, as far as I understand, part of the Board of Education's formula that uses that ratio may indicate that you're a wealthier county when you have a lower ratio. That's some of the semantics of it. Yes, sir. That's a theory based on that your market's going up while your assessments are staying level, showing that you have a strong market in your area. That's just one concept.
Yeah, so it means we should have the ability to pay more because we have a strong market.
Right. So your ratio would indicate that the state doesn't really have a dog in that fight. The whole theory is if you're close to 100%, that assessment burden is shared equally upon all the property classes, whether it be industrial, commercial, residential.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So I think that gave good background. And then again, I'm sorry, Ms. Walsh isn't on here. I think the two options she presented were basically to do our regular assessment cycle early.
1 year early.
1 year early, and then just pick up from that point forward on the normal 6 years. Or there was something around what do they call it? A different kind of, a more limited assessment that may or may not be quite as accurate. And I believe the conversations with your department was the gist got to be you're spending similar amounts of money. You're going to then still have to do a full assessment later. It just really wasn't worth what would be spent. Is that the short version of that conversation?
I believe that is the short version, yes. When you have that, with the big challenge you have with doing the limited scope appraisal is that you don't have the foundational aspect of having accurate data. Your data, unless your data is very, very accurate before you begin that aspect, you're essentially eliminating that ability to go into the field to confirm that data. So because data accuracy is so important, creating that equitable and accurate assessment, we would typically not recommend a limited scope appraisal unless you are very confident that your data had been checked and confirmed in a fairly recent timeframe.
Okay. Thank you. Questions or comments additionally from the board? All right.
I guess we can, I don't have any questions for them.
No, I'd like to talk to them for a second, but.
You two gentlemen, if not hanging out just a second, we think we're done with questions for you, but just hang out while we discuss the topic a moment then.
Sure,
Okay.
thank you.
In case something comes up.
Yeah, I'd like, if we could get the school's opinion on the index from their point of view, their side of it. Because I know they understand that way better than I do.
So as the composite index goes up, the county's ability to pay for schools goes up. And so they kind of break it out into, if you look at our council, I'll just use basic aid, for example. So it may say that we're entitled to $500,000 worth of basic aid. And so maybe the composite index is 30%, which means of that $500,000, the county will be responsible for 30% of it. And so as that composite index goes up, that percentage that the county is responsible for also goes up. And so currently, we pay more than required, but most school divisions aren't capable of functioning at just that required amount. And so we really would love to keep our composite index as low as possible, right? Because it means more state funding for the schools. That makes sense.
Yep. All right, and I think, so what Ms. Walsh is asking for is that we put the funding necessary for that reassessment into the next year's budget, which requires no voting. We're not voting on the budget at this point. I know she and Ms. Kay have been working on the amount based on historical assessments to put us an estimate in there, which then we'll see in a future budget.
Just significant amount.
Yes, in the several hundred thousand.
I think it was
145.
Oh, okay.
She gave us
That's what I call. That's what I call.
Lower dropped.
Yeah,
125.
Less than 200.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact number.
Which will probably, that was then from 5 years ago, so it could be a little, they'll work on the estimate though. All right.
Okay.
All right, I think we're done. Thank you both for joining us tonight. We appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
We do understand that now, I think, so, okay. All right, Mr. Cohen, thank you for hanging out with us here as well. Do you want to kick this one off though on the general, or do we just want to go straight to?
I might just add just a little bit.
Yeah, you're welcome to.
Obviously, this is going to be a discussion about potential solar developments on one of two, maybe both old landfills. And when it obviously first came up, I think Mr. Cohn's group was the first one, but then there were some other folks that expressed interest, and I was just a little bit concerned about everybody having a chance. And I did send the other group a message saying that I needed something in writing by the end of the day on Tuesday if they wanted a seat at the table for this discussion, and I got nothing. So we offered, we got nothing, so this is Mr. Cohen with, what is it, Nicola?
I'll just add, the other company was only interested in the 20-acre site, which has been not necessarily as good for Amelia as the proposal that Nicola has, so.
Right,
So
okay.
before we kick that off and ask a question.
Yeah.
I remember 2-3 years ago, Stuart Price came to us with a proposal to put solar on these two landfills, and he was told that it was not possible.
Right, right.
So what's changed?
I don't think the county is saying it's possible. I think companies are coming to us asking for the ability for them to do I think this is what Mr. Cohn will talk about a little bit more, asking them for the ability to put together a proposal, which would include further study, all at their expense. And if they believe, based on that study, they can in fact install what they're looking for.
Okay, so it's on them to prove that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you recall why he was told?
I think he was the one who decided it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
and
he
then
did the research. I
He went
remember.
to putting on school buildings and public buildings. I think that's what he.
No, there were
he
two
brought
different,
forth.
there were two different things. One was the schools, because
That
I
they were-
remember the schools had Bo Lynch look into it and they determined it was not gonna happen.
They were too far from the substation. There wasn't the main transfer lines.
Okay,
But a lot of that changes over time too with the technology.
That's what we were told with that.
Away from the transmission.
Yeah, the transmission lines.
Okay.
And the cost to get it there was just out of their scope anyway, I believe.
That's right.
And that,
All right, thank you.
all right, Mr. Cohn, we will let you talk through your interest and proposals. If you could start with a little bit of background on the Dominion initiative that you're working through.
Yeah, sure thing. And that could be one of the main things that's changed in the last couple of years is what Dominion Power is actually looking for and what they're allowing at this point in time. So over the last couple of years, and especially the last 9 months or so, the Commonwealth of Virginia, state of Virginia has added the Clean Economy Act, excuse me, Clean Economy Act, and that's pushed both Dominion and AEP towards some heavy renewable goals by 2045 and 2050. So as part of that act, there's specific amounts of solar that they must, not necessarily solar, sorry, renewable energies they must install and or purchase off of someone. And there's also some size limitations within that, and also some locality requirements such as low-income housing, utilizing things such as brownfields, and that's where this comes into play. So there's some additional incentive, not financially necessarily, but from a choice standpoint for Dominion. So what we're doing right now is responding to a RFP that Dominion has out. It is asking for distributed generation, and distributed generation is essentially smaller utility scale solar farms, actually kind of smaller than you would even consider utility scale, some to the tune of 3 megawatts is the maximum. And it's 3 megawatts AC power, so it's going to be a little bit bigger than that, potentially DC. After it goes through the inverter, it would be maximum of 3 AC, usually lose 15% or so, so 15% bigger than 3. So what they're looking for is up to 80 sites at 80 megawatts at no individual site being larger than 3 megawatts. So, somewhere in the realm of 30 or 40 sites across their service territory. This RFP is due on March 1st, so it's coming right up. We've been in communication with Amelia County for a little while, and we're working with a few different landowners around the county now. And hopefully we can work with you guys as well. But basically what we need to submit into this bid is we would write up an individual proposal for this site. We would pay the interconnection application study, and then this would go into a queue system. We'd begin doing some studies on it, and at some point we may not be able to move forward with it, but we also may. And it would also Dominion Power would have to choose this, but part of what they're doing on the smaller scale things is choosing sites, and it's forcing developers to look at smaller sites like this one, like a brownfield or a smaller area near Chesapeake or something like that, where typically people are just coming out doing 500 acres in Amelia County, 500 acres in Halifax County, wherever. And so the point of this smaller RFP is to mix in smaller solar farms in various areas across the grid, and at some point in time they may install batteries, and you add a sense of resiliency throughout the grid that way. So that's kind of what it is. Distance from substation doesn't matter on this size of project necessarily, because you're not over exceeding local use of power, so you don't need to send it to a long distance away or anything like that. But you are right that it's a little ways away from three-phase power. I think it's on 360 there. So I was there today, actually, because I was in town meeting with someone, and it's cleared between 360 and there. Someone just recently timbered that. So it's a little bit of a run. You can count about $1 million a mile to run that stuff. And I don't know exactly how far that is, but it's probably a couple $100,000 to run that. Now, granted, since 2 years ago, the cost of solar in general has come down probably 25%. So you're able to eat up some of those different costs there that they may not have been able to do in the past. But essentially, what we're looking to do is enter into a lease option agreement, which would give us the right to turn this project into Dominion. Without that, we cannot move forward with even submitting the project to Dominion, because they want to know that we have spoken with the landowner, come to an agreement with the landowner on if this project's chosen, we have the potential to move forward. I do want to be clear that this is not a lease, and we worked with Mr. Easter to add some language in our document around having some various pending actions in there. So, it's not forcing the district to make it or the county to make any decisions. You guys can still say no. However, it's still pending all the appropriate permitting, zoning, so on and so forth. So that's kind of what we're looking to do. And we're submitting about 50 megawatts of projects to this RFP spread across 15 sites. And that's what we're doing. So, my name is Forrest. We're Nikola Power, based out of Denver, kind of. I've been in Virginia for a few months. We got a local office to this area in Maryland. So we're kind of spread out with the nature of the world these days. But that's what we're doing. And we're working with engineering firm Coons, Bryan and Williams. And that's kind of how we got involved with this initially. They've done a lot of work with us in the past in various places, and they work here in Virginia, have a headquarters in Richmond, and we're working out of there as well. So it's kind of the nuts and bolts of it, I guess. If you got any questions.
So if these projects are limited to 3 megawatts, it sounds like you're talking about 16 or 17 projects you're submitting. Are you prepared to do all of them, or will you just do a small subset of them if you get approved?
We hope to get every single one of those and do them all, but we don't anticipate that Dominion will necessarily award us all of those projects. And then there's also, as you go through the interconnection study, there's certain load requirements on circuits on various points in the system that would become inhibitive at a certain point. So we anticipate that, probably a majority of those will not go through. Let's say 50% do. We could certainly handle it. We're not necessarily going to be the person that installs that. So what we would do is do all of this work up front, just go through all the permitting, get everything done, work with someone who is local civil contractor, a local construction contractor to get it done. So, we had a team of folks that basically would act as project managers to get the project done.
All right, so to recap, make sure we understood that right. So you're saying that it's an option for the rights. However, there's no lease being done at this point, and there's no obligation on the county's part to proceed with the project at all. No costs to Amelia. We've already looked at the draft contract that includes all the contingencies, that it would be contingent upon special exception permit being approved, et cetera, which we know is no guarantee, and they know that as well. Would have to go through public hearings, et cetera. So we think we've been very forthcoming with Nikola Power as well. Can you remind us how long this option how long you're asking for the option to be in place for?
Yeah, we're asking for a 3-year lease option. And I should also mention that, so a 3-year lease option, and that's the answer, but I'd like to add something I failed to mention is that we do anticipate there being some additional opportunities in the future. So that's one of the reasons for that extended period of time. And also we'll be spending some time up front to do all the studies. So we'd like to have a little bit longer opportunity to take a look at the site. So there's some different stuff that's coming down the line with Dominion, and we would anticipate if this project was not awarded from this round in March, we should know that by the very latest summertime. We would be pushing it into a couple other potential projects, and hopefully they'll release a similar set of projects to this next year. Dominion also has a tremendous demand now from a regulated standpoint of adding renewables. So they're all ears to projects, and they tend to like projects like this that shed some positive light on utilizing, an area like a cap landfill for solar development. So that's kind of, in our minds and in theirs, you're either taking up productive land or agricultural area with this type of stuff, or, there's timber companies that want to work with you too, and then you're cutting down trees or you're not replanting timber. It's good use of a site like this to do something with it. And, that's kind of where we're coming from.
The non-productive sites from every aspect, including revenue generation.
Yes.
Mr. Harris, this is your background industry. Do you have any comments or specific, or
Speaking of revenue generation, less than 5 megawatt solar farms still exempt from machine and tools tax?
They are, yeah.
Is there anything in the?
This has there's nothing in it that binds us to what the lease would actually need to include.
Proffers or anything that we wanted to.
It doesn't exclude or include at this point. Yeah, it leaves out all of that options open.
So what do we need to do?
Let me ask Mr. Gorfer. Jeff, you've looked at the contract. Do you have any other thoughts or concerns?
Honey, well, I'm on the call. Sorry about that. It's bedtime for the third grader.
We understand.
And I was just exchanging a few texts with Taylor about this. The only thing, I didn't realize this was the old landfill site. The only thing I think we'll need to look at and is that DEQ required as part of the closure of that site that restrictive covenants be placed on the use of the property. I just found an old draft. I don't have the recorded version. I don't think that those restrictions would prohibit this type of a project, but I don't know the answer to that. I think we'd have to look into that. So that's just something I thought of as you all were talking about it tonight, as something we'll need to chase down. Otherwise, as far as the proposed option agreement, it contains contingencies on, things like permitting and zoning being eventually approved or having to be filed and approved before the lease could take effect. So, and I think that would cover, whatever needed to be cleared with DEQ on any covenant. So I think the option agreement is fine based on the last version I sent.
Let me add a little bit to that. We did check with DEQ, and it is acceptable use. So I can send over some verbiage on that, but it is acceptable.
If you have correspondence from them, if you could forward that to me, Forrest, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thanks a lot.
But as you said, all of the agreement is contingent upon everything at the state and county level being approved. Okay.
That's right.
So I believe we would need a motion to authorize the county administrator and the county attorney to finalize negotiation of this option. Again, clarifying this is not a lease at this point. Yes.
Okay, so I'll move that we approve or instruct staff and attorney to go off and negotiate this lease option.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the motion?
This is just for one landfill.
It's one. That was a question I had too.
It's optional, but it's
what's the other one?
Crowder.
near Amelia Lumber?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is an option on both. One, it's approximately 10 acres, one's approximately 20 acres.
Yeah.
And we're talking about no valuable use. It goes back to our conversation last week. In fact, the county cannot build any type of actual facilities on them due to the nature of the closure. So our options to use that land are extremely limited. We're just paying to maintain them, which would they'd be responsible for maintaining their section. That actually decrease the cost of the county potentially.
Okay. All for the question.
All right. All those in favor of the motion, respond same sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Appreciate you working with Mr. Cohn.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any other follow-up questions, just shoot them on over to us. We'll happy to answer.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, Holly, sorry, we got kind of.
That's all right.
You're hanging out with us all night either way. So.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so go to the planning and zoning section and turn it over to you to walk us through.
Yes, so I won't deep dive into the whole presentation again, because you guys have already heard this once and done the public hearing on it. But the first text amendment you all will be voting on tonight is an amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow abattoirs, which is a slaughterhouse, as a use by special exception permit in the A5 agricultural district and the RP5 rural preservation district. If you'll recall, currently these are only permitted as a special exception permit in M2 heavy industrial. So this will open up a large chunk of the county for those uses.
Still with a special exception.
Yes, still with a special exception permit. So if you didn't think it was a good location, you'd still have some control there.
So you need a motion?
Yes.
I move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions or comments?
Okay.
Jeff, can you hear us now?
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry.
No, maybe I accidentally hit it. Okay, sorry. So I spoke with Jeff after the planning commission meeting to talk about the definition. And he said really the only way we would add additional stuff is if we were trying to stray from the definition of subdivision. I added the definition of subdivision in you all's board books. We're not straying from that definition. It makes it fairly clear that all subdivision means is the partition or division of land into 2 or more lots. It doesn't mean that it's residential. It would maintain the zoning of the parent parcel.
The confusion is people are thinking of the noun subdivision.
Right.
A subdivision of houses versus the verb to subdivide. And that's what we're talking about, is the ability to split lots.
And I will say, since this notice went in the paper, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from people who own business and industrial sites in the county.
Sure. Well, and it's good. We talked about it in some of our prior meetings. It's really good because you really want to infill your commercial and industrial so that you don't take additional land that could be residential or farmland or
I want
other.
the density there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Space, right.
Okay.
Did we straighten up the setbacks and stuff? I know there was some questions about that.
So all of that is coming at the February.
Be the
Yes,
February Planning Commission.
February Planning Commission. You all will be looking at the rest of the M2 because that will need to go to Planning Commission first. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll be looking at lot size and setbacks on Monday.
Okay.
And then that district, for the most part, industrial will be cleaned up. We'll go into something else.
Okay.
So we need a motion.
We need a motion on that?
Yes.
We have a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve to allow subdivisions
Thank you.
or subdividing.
As presented by, great. Do we have any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, respond to sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. Anything else for your section?
That's all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, as we go into the rest of the old and new business section, we have a committee appointments. We've got two openings, one coming up for the Building Code Appeals Board. The current member's term expires on January 28th. My understanding is he's not seeking reappointment for that.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke to him and he said he wanted to do it.
Okay, well, that's, all right. It is for District 1, so
Yeah,
yes, that is your recommendation. We follow.
So are you nominating him?
Do you want to re-nominate him?
Yes, I want to renominate Mr. Dawson for a second term.
I actually don't, I didn't look this one up. This is a second, there's no limit for the number of terms on this? Okay. All right. Question?
That's a motion.
Yes, sir, that's a motion.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the appointment of Doug Dawson for District 1 Building Code Appeals Board, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Just for information, I did not do a resume since he's already a city and board member.
Okay. And the second one is due to the resignation of Wesley Morris from the Economic Development Authority. We have an opening there. Those positions are at large, not assigned by specific districts. His existing term expires June 30th, 2023. So any appointment would continue through that point and then be open for reappointment.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Eldon Diefenbach for my district. He owns Keystone Lumber in the industrial park, and he's made other investments in the county. He's a businessman with a lot of experience in buying and selling businesses and growing companies. I think he'd be a great addition to the EDA. He offers a unique perspective. And I think he'll work really hard for Amelia.
And that is a motion.
Yeah, that's a motion.
Questions or comments? All those in favor of Eldon Diefenbach to the Economic Development Authority, open term, response, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right. Our next item is the Baker Tilly Compensation Study Report. Mr. Phelps and I both mentioned the meetings in that study at the beginning of the meeting. And we do have a report that was distributed with the status of that work, including the updated timeline. I think all board members have had the opportunity to see that was sent out.
I've seen the timeline. Was something else sent out?
He sent a short letter as well.
They got there? Huh. I'm just trying to look.
I thought they were giving us some kind of presentation tonight.
What we asked for was for this month for them to give the updated timeline and a status report. They are in the same email. There was a PDF that was the timeline and a Word document that was the project update. We'll get them, Holly, or I'll get them resent out then, and we can funnel any questions through. That's just why I got it first. And then we do have a request in for them to come next month. Let's see if it's at the workshop or at the March workshop to do an actual discussion with Baker Tilly. We were pending a couple more meetings with them before they would have meaningful information for discussion.
Who sent that out? You, Joseph?
I'm looking. I will find it once I'm not in the middle of trying to. Okay. I'm multitask deficient today. All right. You were into the meeting. Anything else you want to, all right, Holly, anything else you want to add? Taylor? All right, the next item is the public hearing on land. Do you want to kick that off with
I
a?
can give a brief description. Daryl's here. He could help us as well.
Sorry.
This is a piece of land that's on the outside of the fence at the public utilities property. It was a lot of conversation about that line about the time I was becoming county administrator, and I think right before I got here, maybe the fence was put at a point where we knew we would not have to move it again. That because we were catching such a fit about where the actual pin was. Well, the survey was finally done. It could be no dispute about it. It's a little triangular piece and it's on the outside of our fence. And it's in an area that the prior owner, Holman Motor Company, had used for storage of cars and things. The current owner of that property is Mr. Averett, and he is getting ready to build a building over there. So he came in and asked a question about, was it possible that he could possibly acquire it? And of course, we would have to go through a process if we did. So we got a survey of the land done. I think Daryl can speak to it. We don't really think that it has any value to us. It would probably, it wouldn't add as much as the cost to move the fence over to catch it. So I think we're prepared to say it's surplus and that if the county wants to dispose of it, that's fine. There's a survey plat in your paperwork, and there's also an aerial that Daryl gave that kind of gives a little better description as exactly where it is.
So is the question giving it to the guy or selling it?
Well, that's it. That is the question. I don't think, of course, everybody wants things as reasonable as they can get it.
But when you say make surplus, you just say make it available to dispose of.
I would say that it's not going to have a right of way. And we're not going to be able to give that property one unless I'm not a lawyer. My feeling is we would not be able to provide an access to that little piece unless we put a gate in our secure compound and gave them a right of way through our yard. So it's really of only value to the people that it adjoins.
Mm-hmm. One of which is this guy.
I think one of the things we've had to pay for a survey, one of the things might be to offer the property to an adjoining landowner for the cost of the survey. I think that would be one way to approach it.
He is a business in the county.
Yeah.
He's going to build a building,
Does
I think.
he own the little building that was a dry cleaner or something too?
No, sir, that's West.
Yeah, David, I think you're right. And I did talk to Robert. He's building another building to expand his business, to have another like 3-bay shop.
Yeah.
So to me, it's small, but it's a great example of how and when the county needs to step in to help a local business, what like the EDA should be doing to say, oh, we see you're expanding, you're hiring more people, more jobs. How can we help you get this done?
I'm not saying don't do it. I'm trying to understand the proposal, what's being asked of us.
Yes, I think this is a perfect teeny scale example of what, the proactive side that the county needs to be taking anyway, so.
what do you want to?
Well, we need to do a public hearing. So we did advertise for a public hearing for this. So this is our discussion portion. We'll open it for a public hearing in just a moment. And then following the public hearing, we'll hear motions.
And this was advertised?
Yes, it was advertised for a public hearing and Jeff has reviewed as well.
Okay.
All right, we'll go ahead and open the floor for the public hearing at this time. Mr. Harvey, has anyone emailed or sent in any comments offline?
No, sir.
Thank you. We have one caller on there. Ms. Cruz, do you have comments on this item?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll pause just a moment to see if any of us get pinged with someone who's having trouble getting in for comment. All right, with that, we'll close the public comment portion for this. And we'll entertain motions to advertise this, to declare this property surplus and permit the county administrator and county attorney to negotiate sale of this property at no cost to the county was the discussion we just had.
I move. No move.
We'll call it a first and a second. We'll give you both credit there. And then any other discussion on the motion?
No cost to the county, meaning we get reimbursed for the.
That is,
Right.
one of you made the motion. Is that what you were agreeing the motion meant? All right, thank you. All right, all those in favor of the motion respond with the same sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Mr. Gore, you comfortable with that?
Yes, sir. The only issue is that the county is generally limited on who it can actually donate property to. So we may need to be creative and negotiate a nominal fee. It's not much land, so even fair market value is not going to be much. But
Yeah.
I think we need to look into that issue before we finalize a price. But I think we can get there.
That's what the motion.
Sounds good, and we've authorized you as one of those members on the motion to
Got
negotiate. So we're confident you will keep us legal. All right. Moving along, we've got an item in your board book. Obviously, we've been doing a lot of remote participation, either among ourselves or attendees. And that everything we've been doing has been authorized by the state's emergency declaration. That has gotten us having some conversations, though, about once that emergency declaration ends, what did we have in place for standard participation remotely? And we realized while state law allows that, we don't actually have any of that incorporated into our rules. So what you saw in the board book is it was drafted by Mr. Gore based directly on the state law. And the recommendation is to incorporate that, as you saw, into our board rules. That's really it. Any questions or comments on that?
That's right, Mr. Chairman, kind of need it, changing times.
Yep.
Move that we accept it.
Thank you. Got a motion on the floor. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor of the change to the remote meeting participation, electronic meetings portion of our rules, response sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right. You want to talk about the EDM?
Can we take a 3-minute break?
Yes, we have had a long, yes, we're going to take a short break before moving into the next items. Although I think we're on the downhill.
Very short I have.
That is my goal. For sure.
You want to meet that or just not?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
But you know, those are the times that,
Probably not even. All right, thank you. We are back from break, and with our last item in old and new business, Mr. Scott, do you want to speak to this item for the Economic Development Authority bylaws?
The residency?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about, to the EDA, about an issue that it became apparent that a board member is not living in the county. And we brought it to their attention that we'd like to have the bylaws changed to make it a requirement that any member of the EDA be a resident of Amelia. And they've disagreed with that, and they want this person to be able to stay on the board as long as the person has a business in the county, that they should be able to stay on the EDA. And that's where it stands right now. I would still like to see a residency requirement on the EDA.
And as this board does appoint the people to the EDA, even without the rule, we have the capability of making sure the person is initially a resident of Amelia. It takes an adjustment to their bylaws to enforce that someone remain a resident of Amelia, or at such time that they are not a resident any longer, that they would no longer be a member of the EDA.
Right.
So we want to have discussion on that first, and then since the board's take on that, we cannot change the bylaws for them, but we
Did
can.
you verify that with Jeff?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure. Jeff, I think that was the substance of our conversation was the board of supervisors cannot change the bylaws of the EDA. Our vote is a request for the EDA to make the change. Make sure that's right.
I guess he's not listening.
I'm sorry, say again, if you were speaking to me.
No, I'm sorry, not Allison. Jeff, are you still there? I'm taking a break too. That's what we discussed, though. Okay. Yeah.
So we were.
Is anyone? Oh, yeah. So comments, concerns, questions on that topic first.
I think it's probably just a small oversight. So
Yeah, I think there's just nothing.
positive correction. Yeah.
All right, well, as the other member of the EDA representative, I'll make a motion that we advise the EDA of the board's desires to adjust their bylaws to require that members be citizens, residents of Amelia County, and at any time in which they are no longer resident of Amelia, that their term would be expired and a replacement for the rest of their term would be appointed by the board.
He's making a motion.
I just because I had it, I'll be happy to entertain that motion. Thank you. Jeff, before we vote on it, I think we might have caught you before you got back from the break. We're just looking for confirmation. I think this is what you and I emailed on, is that the board cannot change the bylaws of the EDA. So our vote is requesting that the EDA make those changes.
That's correct. The EDA would have to amend their own bylaws.
Yeah. And as the EDA works at the direction of the Board of Supervisors, that should be well received. All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. Taylor, as the clerk to secretary, to the EDA, will you communicate that request for their next meeting? Thank you. And I believe that concludes that section, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Harvey for the county administrator's report.
Okay, first item on that, tab number 9, waste management, host fee for the month of January, $265,000. The tally sheets are in the tab if you have any questions about it. CRC has submitted their items of interest for January. That's under tab number 10. I think Mr. Scott, Mr. Phelps or myself could probably answer just about anything that you might have about that. They did cancel their monthly meeting mostly due to weather.
Yeah, this month.
Mostly due to weather.
By the way, the schools have submitted, I don't know if you heard yet, the schools have submitted 3 or 4 requests on our recommendation at our workshop to look at some things for them.
Good.
And they've met with Todd and he's gonna go work for them, so. that's good.
We've been talking up the
Membership to
CRC.
pay for itself.
Yeah, we've been talking up the CRC at a lot of groups. That's excellent.
Tab number 11, Comcast is making changes to their TV lineup. And we just used to receive these and it was almost irrelevant because they didn't have much of a presence, but they put the cable in the ground past our mailbox, so I've got a feeling that they're gonna try to become a player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that we talked about that as in a board meeting with, yeah, they did have that public statement, which the board did include comments that that's another good example of broadband growth. So excellent.
Like the Virginia Cooperative Extension Service has provided their annual report for 2020. That is under tab 12. And then we have taken care of the 5th thing, talked about the lease. So I do have a brief update, and Mr. Goff is still here. I thought I would bring in and read you his status of public works projects. In fact, Darryl, would you like for me to give you the email and let you go through it, or? I would like to hand it to Darryl, and Darryl can give you better information.
You're welcome to have a seat too, if you prefer, wherever you'd like to be.
IDA road extension, I think B&B's already submitted that proposal and cost estimate. 360 water and sewer extension, B&B is working on that project. We've talked to them a couple of times about different options, so they're working on several scenarios for you.
Do you know when that one's supposed to be finished?
Sir?
When is that one supposed to be finished? Do you know?
When is
The water and sewer? Yeah.
Water and sewer. I'm not 100% sure when they're going to finish. Courthouse lights for the front of the courthouse that Crystal was working on. Hey, we got those this week. And so we have all the material to do that. So we're just waiting on the weather to break. And actually we'll meet with Crystal up there and look at location and how it looks and everything before we actually put them in permanently. Generator at Parks and Rec, we're working with the engineer on sizing that, make sure it's properly sized and all that stuff. Elementary school lights, we got about 80% of the material has been delivered and the pole locations have been marked. Of course, waiting on weather to do any more there. We got the easement from the school and the MOU from the school. Company one parking lot is out for bid. We have pre-bid meeting, I think the first week of March. The UV lighting at the wastewater treatment plant. There's going to be some scenarios included with the 360 extension. So we're kind of in hold on that until we nail down exactly what's going to happen over there. Kendall Field lights, we have some layouts on the lights, and we're working on other quotes from other vendors for those. Library field grading, B&B will be here to look at the site so that they can go ahead and design the ENS and everything associated with that project. It's going to be a little more involved than we anticipated, I think, than Glenn anticipated in the beginning. So B&B is going to work with us on that because we're going to be disturbing more than an acre. So we got to comply with all the ENS rules and everything. Well heat protection, I received a proposal from Emery and Garrett today on that. Level building improvements, I'm waiting on that property evaluation. High school generator. I'm gonna take that one off the list because we talked before.
Yeah.
With the Parks and Rec generator.
Yeah, we took
That
that.
should be probably the new shelter location.
Mhm.
And the Broad Meadows project, we got a meeting scheduled with VDOT as soon as the weather breaks to find out exactly what they want us to do out there and what they're gonna require.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you for
any
that.
questions?
Yeah, the industrial park road extension, you said the proposal is finished. Is that going to be presented at the next EDA meeting, or can we get copies of it now?
It's the proposal to get the work, the evaluation done.
Oh, that's all?
It was the proposal from B&B on the design and engineering.
I thought we already,
Cost
I thought we already gave them the go-ahead to go ahead and do it.
Well, they had to write it up and get it to us.
Wow, took that long just to get that.
Yeah, and based on what we saw, I don't know. Did y'all see the proposal or?
I haven't seen anything.
So.
I was under the impression they were doing the design.
That was the one,
We approved the design.
I think we circulated that. That was the one that's the $1.2 million
Yes, sir.
total cost.
Mm-hmm.
I think you all have seen that, right?
Yeah, it's been about 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks since we got it back.
Yeah, it was the one that
Yeah,
had
the estimate, yeah.
the estimate.
And it had a
total
cost estimate
cost.
of 1 point.
Okay, so that's all, that's what we got so far.
So
Yeah,
But, okay, I think where we're getting confused is that sounded like it was a proposal for them to do that, where you said you've actually received the proposal for the work.
they submitted us a proposal for their design cost for that project along with the cost.
That's right, because that's what triggered me to ask you about.
So.
yeah,
Smith's
that's
got-
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
So.
So that's all we have, right?
They're ready to move forward as
Yep.
soon as we turn it loose, if the board. if the
Yeah, we
board's
really
ready
need to
for us
figure out
do
what's
that.
going on with this other thing and how long the road's gonna be. And so
Yeah, I
there's
think
still
that's
some
what we're
issues.
waiting on.
Yeah. Okay.
And Holly, you're working with, I can't remember their names, it was the brother, and it was during the public portion of the EDA meeting last week.
Yes,
You're
yeah,
working with
Taylor
them.
and I have talked to them a bit since the last meeting.
Okay. Because I
I've
think
sent
that's what
them-
Roger's saying, like, that really is the big thing we need to know right now is, are we doing we need to figure out then, will we need to do the road the whole way down?
Right.
Or if they proceed with buying that land, then it's half the length of the road,
I
which is
talked to
great.
sister and she said that brother was gonna talk to Taylor so they can come to a conclusion about the road and pricing and how much acreage they need.
Okay.
So her and I worked out what needs to happen on my end, but she said that Austin was gonna work with
And brother
Taylor.
called today, and brother and I are going to meet when the weather gets out of the crisis mode.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so to tie up a loose end that Daryl mentioned, he mentioned the MOU that the schools, Parks and Rec developed. Schools have ratified it. And we're ready to go ahead and sign, but we want to make sure there are no issues. And they're virtually the same. It's for 2 fields. Parks and Rec field, which is behind the library. It's where the kids play football or practice. And then the elementary school field. The agreements are virtually the same, except for on the Parks and Rec field, the county's going to pay the utilities because the school will get no benefit during the week. The county's going to be responsible for all future maintenance costs and repairs of the alterations. We're the ones that are going to use it most. We're going to be responsible for cutting the grass and the maintenance here. When we go over to the elementary school, the school board is going to pay the utility cost over there because it's on their property and they're going to use it more. We're going to share equally the responsibility for any future upgrades. And then the county is back to cutting the grass and maintaining it like we always have anyway. So it seems all parties have said this is reasonable. The school board has seen it and they have signed it and just forwarded us copies of it. So we're prepared to sign and move forward if that's something that the Board of Supervisors will
motion on that?
support. I think it would be good, yes.
We did receive that. Those are the same. They have not been updated since the versions we received.
That's correct. So if we had a motion to adopt those MOUs, we get copies signed.
All right, we've got that motion here. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving both of those MOUs, respond, sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Okay.
All right.
You need me to sign them before we're done too?
These are just copies. I'll get Brenda
Okay.
to print up some pretty ones
Perfect.
or the original ones.
All right, do you need anything else over your section?
That's that section, but we do need closed.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I did want to ask, what's going on with the hiring of the deputy county administrator? I know we extended the deadline, but have you gotten more people? Have you interviewed anybody yet?
It hadn't closed yet, but I think how.
Right, it hasn't closed, so we haven't,
So do you wait for it to close before you interview anybody?
yes, yeah. So it'll close next Friday. Since we extended it, I have gotten one more. But it's still posted and it's still posted on VACO VML, the website. It was running in the paper last week, not this week, but then next week. Yeah, so I've got one more.
So how many do you have now?
10.
Any other questions for Mr. Harvey? We're at board members' comments. We'll go in order of district. Mr. Phelps.
All right, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank everybody who worked tirelessly over the weekend, clearing roads, getting the power back on. I'm gonna name a few. I'm probably like getting an award at the CMAs. I'm probably gonna forget somebody. Fire department, rescue squad, sheriff's office, and I included the dispatchers because I expect they were working as hard as we were.
No doubt.
County staff, social services, and emergency management. And also don't want to leave out Southside Electric, Dominion Power, TDS, and Southern States. Just for information, this was a very well-managed county-wide incident. There were a lot of decisions being made with safety in mind of those right there working and citizens back online with services. There was some negative and positive chatter on social media, and y'all know I'm a positive person, so I didn't look at the negative, but the positive, Amelia took care of Amelia, and I wouldn't expect nothing less. So, thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
I have a few things.
Sure.
Earlier in the meeting, I talked about River Street and how the good news is the tower. But I'd also like to say the project's going along nicely. It's a little slow, it's a little behind, but it's progressing nicely, and these guys are great to work with. The update meetings are really good. They seem to be really on the ball with getting everything completed technically. But the marketing campaign that we were promised in the very first meeting when these people came is basically non-existent. And I think it needs to be said, and I think something needs to be done about it. They are not doing anything for marketing in social media, or they said they would mail out pamphlets. They handed out pamphlets to us and said, we're going to be doing things like this. And I would like to see something done about that. Knowledge about being able to be a beta site, like I talked about earlier. All you have to do is ask, and if you're willing to work with them, because you may have issues, it's not going to work perfectly right away. They have to tweak it or whatever. It's not common knowledge out in the county that people can volunteer for that. Or they might want to say, I'd like a tower on my property. Who do they call?
Right.
I think the whole marketing campaign needs to be improved from River Street. The next thing, the animal shelter I mentioned earlier, it's going along well. We picked somebody to work with, but I also just wanted to add that Brian Wooten has done a really good job pulling all this together. Holly too, but especially Brian, he really stepped up and has done a good job pulling all these proposals together. And the committee's been very functional, and it's gone well, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the proposal these people come up with. Whether or not we do it is another question. And the Hindle building, I found out today that we've gotten 4 proposals back. I haven't seen them yet. I guess they just came in yesterday or Monday. I think they came in Monday. I'd like to see them, but that's good too. So there's progress on all those fronts.
Okay. Sean?
I'd like to echo David's comments about this recent storm, and I'm sure tomorrow, just to let people know, because I am on the fire department, I have a pager, and the fire department received and took calls for over 24 hours straight. While a lot of us were at home wondering how to get electricity going in the middle of the night, they were still going out and removing any trees that were non-power line trees. We, at one point, I know Krell's Road was blocked, 360 was blocked. I think Clementown might have been, but, and then a lot of secondary roads. So multiple crews, as David said, I know dispatch was busy. At one time, a few of our deputies were stuck in town in between trees. And they were having to cut trees to get to other trees where there was calls. So it was pretty bad. And I appreciate everybody in the community working together. I seen and heard a lot of community volunteers were out there helping as well. As usual, like David said, I wouldn't expect any less. And going into tomorrow, there's no telling, but we'll probably just see round two of the same, see good people and help and strong will. It's always good and refreshing to see people come together to work through something like that. And I'd just like to ask everybody to be patient. If you don't have power, we know it's coming. If anybody hasn't seen or heard, the devastation in Dinwiddie and Blackstone is unbelievable. So, you may look around your yard and see a couple of limbs down and think, well, why don't I have power? But it's bigger than just us. So we just all have to do our part and be patient. The only other thing, I want to thank the community, you guys and the administration for everything with my family, with what's been going on. It's certainly the biggest tragedy situation in our lives that we've ever had to handle. And the support has been great, both from the community, the sheriff's office, the fire department, EMS, all of those people too have come together and it takes a village and we couldn't do it as easily without all of that help and support. So I just want to thank everybody.
You gotta come up with a slogan, something Amelia when stuff like that happens. Amelia strong, Amelia, I don't know.
No doubt, yeah.
Listen, my only note was pretty much what the two of you said better than I'm gonna say it, but thanks to the sheriff's office, fire department, rescue squad, the employees of the power companies and the county staff. I agree. Phenomenal job. My family got our power back on this afternoon. I know it's a struggle. That was 5 days for us. I know everybody else is a one, but just thankful we are healthy and safe and understand got to prioritize. So
those who think that people can put the power back on just like that, and, when you got now in your more densely populated area, that can happen. When people get close together, and pretty much accessible, so to speak. But when you got
underground a lot too.
Yeah, and the underground,
Yeah.
that's true. When you got them running through forest and at the very end of the line, you only got one or two people like that, and you got trees go lower down. So I can understand that, and I got people calling me like they think I still work for something. I retired, but talking about the process and all that good stuff. I would like to piggyback on your concerns about the PR effort of River Street. Getting all kinds of calls, and they want people to service, test sites, looking for folks. If they had a good PR program, put it out there,
It all shows progress.
I'm sure that they would.
Just public messaging.
I agree with both of you. I did note one ad I saw in the paper. I thought that'd be a bigger start, and then I
would
didn't
agree.
really see much else follow from that.
Recently?
I thought it was last week's paper. I saw one.
Oh, okay. I didn't even see that.
They did call me last week
Right.
with questions about a few
Still
sites to set up
there.
their retail location. So hopefully that'll be set up in the community soon.
I'm sorry, say that again?
They called last week, I think it was, asking about a few locations to set up their retail location so people can come in and sign up and get their equipment and everything.
That would definitely.
I'm sure you guys see on social media, there are people that don't know the name of this company still that are asking, what's the new internet? When's it coming? If you don't know their name, that's a problem.
We just need a marketing and awareness campaign. We're investing in this thing.
Yes.
I'll also say, Dinwiddie's had the same problem with it.
I'm sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think it's specific to us, but it needs to be addressed. It'll be interesting to watch the Comcast expansion as well and what they do from that standpoint. Similar to what Mr. Harvey said, I've seen them now, putting in lines places, but it's still not exactly clear to me when that'll be. Since that's not a county-run initiative, we have less information. But either case, I hope they both end up helping the citizens. So.
But still, they're running fiber from one end of the county to the other along 360, and they're only going to go so far off 360. That leaves 90+% of the county not covered by Comcast. They're not doing wireless; they're only doing fiber.
Exactly.
The same people that already have
coverage.
Yeah.
I don't know. That map, I think it will help some areas for sure. It certainly doesn't get everybody. And
not River Street will.
No. But that's my point. I think it's going to take a combined effort. I don't think any one of these things are going to be the magic bullet.
Competition's good.
It is absolutely good. All right, that concludes the regularly scheduled portion of our agenda. We do have a closed session item. Do I have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to exception covered in Virginia Code 2.2-3711.3 regarding the acquisition of real property where open discussion would adversely affect bargaining?
Somebody
got it. Thank you. All those in favor, sign with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, and we're heading into closed session.
Thank you all for your service. I appreciate your time and energy.
Thank you, Ms. Grace. Good night.
Okay. Make a motion that we come out of closed session.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, so respond with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, we need to certify, need to certify, whoops, I lost my code section. Need to certify that during the closed session, we only discussed items authorized under exception 2.2-3711.3, the acquisition of real property where discussion would adversely affect bargaining. We'll go by district. District 1,
I certify.
District 2,
I certify.
District 3,
I'll certify.
District 4 certifies, District 5.
So certified.
Thank you. Do we have a need to continue the meeting? Do we have a motion to conclude?
So moved. So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Y'all stay safe this weekend.